Yes, I'm back. Before you say excuse me, just let me have a quick drink. And before you say it, I know I need a haircut. I've got one booked for tomorrow, whenever that may be. I'll have probably had it by the time I upload this video. So anyway, I'm back again. And a bit of a change this week from unanswered questions from the APMG's Level Up series. I'm switching back to answering questions again from my recent PM versus CM gigs, this time from PMI Norway. Unfortunately, because of GDPR regulations, I was not given the names of those who asked the questions. So, do you recognise the question? Let me know who you are if you want. It'd be good to know. So, what were the two questions that I chose? Well, the first one was, should the CM, change manager, be working internally in the organisation or as an external resource? And the second question was, have you been part of a change that has involved a reduction in the number of people? What is your top lesson learned from this? Good questions. So let's start with numero uno, shall we? Should the CM ideally be working internally in the organisation or an external consultant? Now, I may answer this with a slight bias, having been an external independent consultant for more years than I care to remember, but I'll try not to. I'll try to be unbiased. Anyway, let's first have a look at the advantages of using an internal change management consultant. They will obviously have the necessary knowledge, of the culture and the environment of your organisation. Good start. They will be acquainted with how the company's processes work. Of course they will if they're working there. They will know what the best channels are within the organisation to communicate effectively. Very important. They will also be more readily available and more cost effective. Maybe. They will have more authority within the organisation as they will have already built the necessary relationships and trust. Kind of true, but an external consultant can do that as well pretty quickly. That's cool. Okay, hope you got that. So what about the disadvantages? Well, there are a few. Obviously, there's always advantages and disadvantages of everything. They may be very subjective and too close to the change when you absolutely need real objectivity. They may also get stuck in a gear of, this is how I've always done it, and lose the necessary creativity and innovation that might be required by the change. When the organisation is not faced with a change, they may be reassigned, which could have an influence on their capacity when they need to act in a change management role again. So, pros and cons of an internal consultant. Okie dokie, all well and good. All right, what about external consultants then? They change management consultants. Let's go through some advantages and disadvantages, shall we? For one, they are objective to the change as they are not closely involved or personally impacted by it. They will increase the trust of employees to give more truthful feedback. It works, I can assure you. I've done it many times. They can give a fresh look at the company culture and the effectiveness of the environment around them. They are not easily influenced by company politics, although unfortunately sometimes you get dragged into them. They bring along a vast amount of experience gained from various other initiatives as they have been involved in change for a long time. And now, some of the disadvantages, they sometimes have a challenge with building the relationships in time that is needed for a successful implementation. Again, if you're a good change manager, you can build relationships pretty quickly. They may challenge the status quo. Oh my goodness, don't challenge the status quo of the organisation and the traditions that they may have formed over time. Oh dear. Then there's the question of how to sustain and and the usage and adoption of the change and the momentum of the company once they have gone or their contract ends. They will also require out-of-pocket costs and will likely charge a significant day rate. Well, yes, I used to, but I didn't used to charge costs unless that was in the contract. So, horses for courses. When deciding whether you should opt for an internal or an external change manager, all advantages and disadvantages, those I've just mentioned, and need to be considered. It is also dependent on the nature of the organisation as well as the culture, and the nature of the change, of course, as well, to be able to determine what would work best, for the organisation and the employees. So, what's your view? Do you have a view? Internal? External? What would you prefer? Let me know in the comments section. Right, to the second question, which is, have you been part of change that has involved a reduction in the amount of people? What is your top lesson learned from this? Oh, yes, I have. And what a nightmare of a project it was. I was involved with a project for the organisation that own and manage the infrastructure of most of the railway networks in the UK, big organisation. I was brought into the project again, as usual, after it had started and been going for several months. The project proposed the formation of a centralised National Records Centre that would house all of the existing Network Records Group records, or NRG as I'll call them from now on, held at the record centres in places like Manchester, Glasgow, York, Waterloo, Croydon, Swindon, Birmingham and Gillingham. If you're not from the UK, you might not know them, but if you are from the UK or you know the UK well, you'll know that they are spread all over the country. Increasingly, the NRG was operating a remote service to its customers, and there was no longer a need to have the paper records located in the current administrative and control centres I just mentioned. Excuse me a moment, dry mouth. The rollout of the electronic document management systems as providing the infrastructure for self-service access to records and catalogue searching. So no paper, all digitised. This was some years ago, by the way, so before the phrase digital transformation was coined. So, we were digitising a long time ago. Anyway, this meant centralising those existing record centres that I mentioned earlier on into a new build record centre based in York, which was the centre of the country, more or less. And as a consequence, there were to be job losses, unfortunately. This was approximately 20 staff, I think, in the end. Not quite sure, but as far as I can remember, it was about 20. In a published consultation document, it stated, to ensure a fair and consistent approach for all employees, the following measures were proposed. All displaced employees will have the opportunity to apply for jobs at the new National Records Centre at the same time. Okay. All employees will be covered by the current well-defined HR processes and procedures as outlined in the relevant employee information packs, which we sent out to all the employees, by the way. All employees will be fully informed of their rights and will take part in significant consultation and a communication exercise. Yeah, sounds feasible. All employees were to be treated within the same process and timescales. A full communications plan was created for the duration of the entire NRG consolidation project, of which the key objectives were, and I quote, provide open, honest information to all affected staff at the right time and provide an opportunity for two-way communications. Inform all stakeholders of the existence of the programme and its objectives. Regularly communicate updates at the appropriate times to all stakeholder groups on progress and key issues. Obtain buy-in and input from managers within the NRG function. Obtain buy-in and input from key stakeholders, other business functions and external providers. Communication would be delivered internally to affected employees and the wider community, and at the same time to interested external parties. Excuse me once again, my mouth is awfully dry at the moment. Having said that, that was the plan. And you know what they say about plans, the best laid plans of mice and men. I think it was Rabbie Burns, but I can't do it in a Scottish accent. Unfortunately, this is where the problems start. When I started, I discovered that there were a lot of rumours spreading around about the project and about job losses. I heard it through the grapevine about who would be made redundant. Sorry about that. Always break into song. I have done before, you know that. Was it to be based on age or years of tenure? All right. What would be the terms of the redundancies? I don't know. Would there be an opportunity to reskill and stay with the company? Nobody knew. On top of that, despite the key communication objectives I mentioned earlier on, no one had actually communicated anything about job losses to the impacted community. Oh dear. Never mind. This obviously was a major concern for me, and I raised this with the program manager, who was a bit of a dinosaur, and he flatly refused to let me send any official announcement out about job losses. Anyway, after a bit of a stand-up, I wouldn't say it was argument, exchange of views, let's say, he said he would consult a third party. So he went off to HR, which he did, after which he came back and he said, yeah, okay, Ron, go ahead and do it. HR have recommended it. So, you know, I knew I was right anyway. Yeah. But rather than just send out a mail, an impersonal mail, I made a point of visiting each record centre and presented the full facts of the project to them face to face. This was a bit like throwing me or Daniel into the lion's den, because the resistance I got was extremely vociferous, absolutely vociferous and somewhat direct, but at least the official message was now out and countered the rumours that had been circulating, which was the whole idea, which was the whole objective. So, in answer to the question, the main lesson I learned, and hopefully they learned as well, was transparency was paramount, and that open and honest two-way communication needs to be given regardless of whether it is a good news or a bad news communication. Yeah. And it should be at the earliest possible opportunity. That was a bit of a long one, but I think it was an important one. So thank you very much again for listening, and I've got other questions in the pipeline, so I will upload them when necessary. And don't forget, please, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button. You won't miss a thing. Cheers.